Alright, so in this video we're checking out the new Radiomaster Nomad ELRS transmitter module, and we're going to check out the receiver that kind of goes along with the system. Here's the DBR4, and just to show you, this is what comes with the receiver. You got some mounting grommets and some wire for connecting to your flight controller. Might as well start with the receiver, just to quickly show you that we have two sets of antennas. We have the 900 and 868 megahertz antennas and the 2.4 gigahertz antenna. And you can see it's just a standard whip antenna here, not the T style. And over here we have another set, the 2.4 gigahertz and the 915 868 megahertz here. And it's a 20 by 20 board. We've got pads here for soldering to your flight controller. It's a pretty big receiver. Here's a look at the module. This is aluminum, CNC aluminum here. Of course, as you can see, Gemini. We'll talk about that here in a second. XT30 here on the bottom. 6.2, looks like 16.8 volts, USB-C, and nothing on this side. And we got two antennas. These are included. These are dual band antennas, and they can rotate, of course, like this. You get different angles on both of them, etc. This is the micro module, a standard JR Bay module, as you can see there. There will be a nano Bay module adapter that will come out at some point that they did not send. That was not in time for the review, but that will be included in the production samples. Big fan here because we have two 1-watt transmitters inside here, and they're both dual band transmitters that do Gemini, so 2.4 gigahertz. 868 or 915 megahertz, and there's two of them here, so lots of cooling here, really big heat sink. You're going to need that. It's a pretty big power draw for this if you're going to be doing long range. And of course, you know, that's the idea behind Gemini, and this sort of system here is going to be for those folks that are trying to go really far, or they really need something that's going to penetrate, you know, through buildings, dealing with a lot of interference. Maybe you're in an area with a lot of Wi-Fi interference or other kinds of RF interference. This is what this is for. I did talk about Gemini earlier in a previous video, but it's just sort of a recap of what it is. Basically, it transmits on two different frequencies. And so before, when you had the Gemini transmitters on just the 2.4 gigahertz band, it would transmit packets on two different frequencies separated by about 40 megahertz. And that's of course to penetrate through interference. If one packet is corrupted or lost in a certain section of bandwidth, the other bandwidth section is probably clear and will get through. And that's sort of the idea behind it. You sort of, you know, why send one when you can send two and maybe one will get through? Well, this takes that idea a bit further. Now, I'm not 100% sure on the engineering behind this, so I'm kind of washing this down a bit, making this sort of simplified. Of course, I might be completely wrong here. It might be much more complicated than this, but essentially what's going on here is you have a transmitter that's transmitting on two different bands, 915 or 868, depending on what your region is, and 2.4 gigahertz. And it's doing Gemini within both of those bands as well. So it's two different, you know, completely different bands, and then Gemini within both of those. Now, I'm not 100% sure if I'm correct on that. If it's actually sending 4 packets, or if it's just sending one over the 915 868 and then one over the 2.4. There wasn't a lot of information in terms of details, engineering details, on how the system functions. So I'm going to link this stuff down in the video description. It's going to probably be talked about in the ELRS website, but it's not available to me because at the time I'm recording this video, it's under embargo, and this is not going to be released until ELRS version 3.5 is released, and right now it's only RC1. Not a lot of information about this is out there, and you know, it's a little bit confusing in terms of the documentation that Radiomaster did send me. So they did send me some stuff, and there's going to be some new packet rates that are going to be for ELRS 3.5 for this system here, and these are the ones. I'm just going to I'm not going to read these off to you. You can just read and pause the video and read yourself. But basically, you have these new packet rates available that weren't available before, and then this new introduction of K modes. You can go ahead and pause the video if you'd like to read what these are. These are, I think, specialty things. These are not for everyday folks. If you just fly, in your normal spaces and not having any issues, probably none of this stuff is going to matter to you. So I think it's only going to matter for those people that have particular interference issues, and this kind of a system is going to be beneficial for those folks.
A few moments later.
Alright, so I was going to do an interesting test on these two here. This is the Ranger 1-watt transmitter and also a micro module. And I was going to do the range test basically on the ground. I can't really go too far in terms of flying, so I'm going to do a ground test. And I was going to test the Ranger to the Nomad. And of course, it was basically like, the Ranger bound to the RP1 receiver, kind of your basic setup here. Get a baseline for what the signal quality is like with this. And then do the same test with the Nomad with the new receiver and see what kind of difference we're getting in terms of signal quality, see what the numbers are like, all at the same power levels, up to 1 watt on dynamic power. However, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that test for this video because I'm not sure what happened. I was going to do this, basically use this flight controller, and I have a special plug here. I was going to swap the receiver, swap the module, so they can do basically the same baseline test, apples to apples. But my receiver apparently is DOA. Doesn't power up, no lights, nothing. So I went through all this trouble, and I figured out of all the Express ELRS hardware I've gotten over the years, this is the first time I've ever had a DOA receiver. So kind of crazy. Was not expecting that, and I kind of spent all this time putting this elaborate test together to find that the receiver is dead. Kind of annoying. Anyway, it's too close to the embargo date. I'm going to release the video as is, and I guess they're going to send me another receiver at some point. I will do this test, and that'll be in a future video, and I will do it on not the firmware that they sent here is like a beta version of 3.4.3. Pretty soon, I think 3.5, the formal release of 3.5 will be out, which is what this is formally supported on. And I think that'll be a more fair test because that'll be kind of a finished firmware. So that'll be in the next video on the Nomad. Not sure when that's going to be. It depends on when this shows up and my schedule. So, if you're interested in that test, stay tuned to the channel, subscribe, and when you turn your notifications on, when that video comes out, it'll pop up on your notifications. But that's going to cover it for this video, and I'll link down in the description where you can pick this up if you're interested in picking it up. But unfortunately, couldn't do the test. So sorry about that. Happens sometimes, but I got to get the video out by the embargo date, so it is what it is. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Talk to you guys in the next one.